Hello, hello everyone. Good evening, and thank you for joining TAGCA's college admission webinar. Today's speaker is Sonika Gurupadi. She graduated from Horticulture High School this year with an AP Scholar distinction. She is also an Ingram Scholar at Vanderbilt University. She received a full tuition waiver. This waiver is only awarded to 10 students out of 37,000 applications. So congratulations, Sonika. She's also the founder of Prepare nonprofit org, which provides STEM education to underprivileged students back in India. So Sonika, thank you for taking time to do this webinar for the Telugu community on behalf of TAGCA. I would like to thank you. And I would like to go over, I'll just hand it over to you. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna start with a PowerPoint. This is probably gonna last like an hour or so, and then we're gonna have like an optional question session. So how we're gonna do questions is a little bit different. I don't want everyone like speaking over each other. So just go to this link and it'll take you to like a Google Sheets and just type in all of your questions on the first column. And then like at the end of each section, I'm gonna put the link up in case you missed it. But at the end of this like PowerPoint, I'm gonna go through the spreadsheet and we're gonna answer all the questions together, just so that it doesn't like descend into chaos with everyone talking over each other. But yeah, the question session will probably last like 30-ish minutes, depends on how many questions you guys have. Okay, so we're gonna start from the top, just like all the parts of the college application process, like what does it involve, like the timeline, when to do everything, all of that. Kind of just an overview. So this is like, if you like this, you don't have to follow this timeline because I honestly was a little bit behind, but ideally this is gonna give you enough time to work on everything if you stick to this timeline. So most kids, like they contact their recommenders at the end of their junior year, but I know that because of Corona, like obviously you guys didn't have the second half of your junior year. So it's not too late to email your teachers, but most of the time teachers write their rec letters like over summer or like the first 2 weeks or the first 2 months of like senior year. So that's why you want to give them a lot of time to be able to really like spend a lot of time on your rec letter and make it more personalized. And most people, like Common App just opened, I think like August 1st or something. So work on like, I started working on my essay before Common App opened up, like your Common App essay, because the prompts are usually the same. Like this year, they're exactly the same as last year. But yeah, you guys like should be done like setting up your Common App profile, which is just like basic information, like which school you went to and like family information, stuff like that. And then your Common App essay, honestly, for me, that was the most challenging part of like the entire application process. That's the big one that you send to all of your schools. And that one's like the one where you have to like show your personality and stuff. So we have an entire section of this PowerPoint that's dedicated to just that. But after that, like I finished my Common App essay in August. And then I started working on like scholarship essays and supplemental essays. So supplemental essays are the smaller ones that you have to do for like each school. Like each school has their own set of supplements. It's not that every prompt is unique. Like most schools start overlapping after you do like 5 or 6 applications, but like some schools have like 1 supplement, some schools have like 4, and they can be anywhere from like 100 words to like 750 words. So it really just depends on the school. That's why you want to like make sure that you start like looking at your supplements around like September, so you have a lot of time to get through like all of them, and you're not like overwhelmed, because a lot of people like myself, like when I was applying, I thought supplemental essays, they were like super short. I could just do them in like a week, but like that was not the case. Cause like, I remember Case Western had like a 750 word one. So yeah, there are some supplements that are even longer than your Common App. And then your first deadlines, like your earliest ones are probably going to be the early action ones. Chapel's, I remember, was October 15th. But other than Chapel Hill, everything else was like November or December for early action. And then regular decision is like typically in January, and then like some schools, like I remember like 1 or 2 schools had their regular decision in December, which was a little weird. And then besides regular decision, there's also schools that have like rolling admission, and that's even later in the year, like all the way up into like April even. So this is like the like, if you want to be on the earlier side of things, like this is the schedule you should follow. And then like alumni interviews, those are like optional. Not all schools will have it. And also not all schools will have alumni that are in your area. So don't panic if you don't get one, but those typically happen from like December to January. Mine were in December, yeah. Okay, so the entire application is like kind of huge. It's not just on Common App. Like, hold on 1 second. So you have like your Common App essay, the big one, the 650 word one. That's, you know, you pick a prompt. There's like a list of like 9 or 10, and then you just, you know, write a essay that kind of showcases your character, who you're going to be as a student, what kind of professional that you might be, and then you have your supplemental essays. And then so rec letters are super important, especially this year, because you guys like didn't have the chance to do a lot of testing. There's not going to be a lot of numbers to go off of. Also, since you're missing like half a semester of grades, if you're applying this semester, this cycle, like rec letters and your essays are going to be like the majority of your application. And besides that, like you have test scores that you have to send in, either like ACT, SAT subject tests if you have them. Most schools are test optional now, but like if you have something good, like just go ahead and send it. It's always better for them to have more information about you than less. And then, you know, your grades and your class rank, like they'll get all of that from your transcript, like from your counselor at school. And then your alumni interview, like usually like on Common App, all that is like a little checkbox. Do you want to sign up to be like, or like to sign up to get an alumni interview? And they'll like contact you again later on. Or sometimes it's like you have to go into the application portal, like the applicant portal, after you submit your Common application and apply for an alumni interview that way. But we'll get into that later. And then extracurriculars. So all of those, like a lot of people think that like, if they just like rack up like a bunch of awards and like do like 1,000,001 extracurriculars, there's going to be room for all of that on your application. But in reality, like I literally had to pick and choose. Like I was not able to put everything I had on my applications. So like on your Common App essay, like on your Common App profile, you have like one section for activities, where you can like put 10 activities and only you have like maybe 3 or 4 sentences for each of the activities. And then like, besides that, you have a section where you can put 5 awards and that's it. And you can't even like explain much about them. And then you have your supplemental essays and your Common App essay and your rec letters. That's all the writing that you have to talk about the things that you've done. So like, don't like just do things because you think they'll help you for college, because in the end, you're only going to be able to pick the things that you were like truly passionate about to the point where you can write about them, or like there's only so many things that you can put on there. So make sure the stuff you put on there really does kind of show the admission committee like who you are, what your aspirations are, and like what you're actually passionate about. But yeah, so extracurriculars can include anything from like volunteer service to any like research things like at universities, or like maybe like the summer research programs, or any like internships that you may have had, like, or any like programs that you might have gone to like at universities before Corona happened. And even like hobbies, like you can put that in your like activity section of your Common App too, if you can like write about it. And maybe if you took it a step farther and maybe taught classes, like if you like art, maybe taught art classes, that would count as like an extracurricular. Or any jobs that you had, like working at McDonald's or Wendy's or Chick-fil-A, whatever. But yeah, all of those count as extracurriculars. Most of mine, like I actually didn't do a lot of school clubs. Almost all of my extracurriculars, or like the things that I listed on the Common App profile, were like service things, like volunteer programs that I'd been like with for more than a year or so. And then, so this was how, like the things that I researched when I was like picking my college list. Like a lot of people, just kind of look at the ranking and be like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to apply to the top 10 in my major, which is like not a very good plan. So you should actually look at, you know, the different factors, because this isn't just like where you're going to go to school. Like this is where you're going to live. This is about to be your home and your life for like the next 4 years. So you can't just like decide that based on ranking. So like one thing to look at that's super important, at least for me personally, was like location. You know, how far is it from home? Like what's the weather like over there? Is it like in the middle of a city? Is it like more rural? Like what's the surrounding area like? What's there to do? And then I also, like, most of my colleges had virtual campus tours available online, like YouTube walkthroughs, or like just on the website they'll have like little clicky things, and you can like check it out that way. And then like you can look at their undergraduate course catalog, which is like, you don't really have to, like, I didn't look at that until like way later in the game, but it was just pretty cool to see like unique classes that maybe other schools don't offer. And then like this kind of ties in with looking at what majors they have. So a lot of schools do have like majors that are specific to their school. Like Vanderbilt has medicine, health, and society, which is like a super cool interdisciplinary major. And interdisciplinary majors are just things that like cross departments or like multiple majors kind of combined, like Franken majors. But that's like that was a big thing when I was like picking colleges, because also like one of the reasons that like Duke was one of my top choices was because of how much like flexibility they allow in terms of you know, creating your study plan. Like they have like DIY major options. So yeah, and they have like pretty cool like interdisciplinary ones too. And then you also want to look at like special programs. Like I know that UPenn had like a bunch of dual degree programs. So like, and there's like DO programs in like the schools in Florida. There's like USF and like UF have like BSMD and DO programs for pre-med students. So just look at like what options the school can offer. And I know that ECU has like some early assurance things too. So those are the type of programs you want to look into if you already know, like if you're looking into grad school, maybe look for an undergrad like school that, you know, has a special program to prep people for that like grad school. And then you also want to look at scholarships and scholarship programs. So even if like money's not a big problem to you, like it's not just money that you get out of scholarships, because especially scholarship like programs, like that's different than just scholarships. Like scholarships, they give you money and that's it. But scholarship programs, like they'll have mandatory programming for you. Like my scholarship is a scholarship like program. So they, first of all, they gave us full tuition, but then when we go to campus, like we meet every single Wednesday, and you know, we have guest speakers come in, we have like special classes for us that we have to take, and you know, we have like community service requirements, and they like match us with lots of local like nonprofits to help us you know, like bring our ideas to a reality, and like just really get hands-on like experience with like community service and social enterprising and stuff like that. So that's what I mean by like scholarship programs. So those are like really important to look into, because besides that, like even when I went for the Park Scholarship meeting, they were the finalist weekend, they were saying that like our Park scholars, like if they apply to grants, there's something called PEG grants over there, almost always they get it. And like they were saying that you'll have like a leg up when you apply to research opportunities or like volunteer programs, or if you volunteer for if you apply for an internship or a research position and list that you're a Park Scholar, you're more likely to get it. And like first year research opportunities are kind of hard to come by, but if you're in a scholarship program, you might have an easier time finding one. So there's like a lot of like little perks that maybe like aren't like advertised on the website, but like if you dig more into the scholarship and talk to the people there, and once you go to finalist weekend, a lot of these scholarship programs offer you perks that will, you know, make opportunities easier for you to access. And you also get like a lot of personal attention because it's a much smaller group of students. Like our Ingram group is like 10 kids per grade, so there's like 40 of us all together, and there's like a bunch of staff that's like dedicated for like this group, and like there's so much planning that goes into just 10 kids. We get so much attention. And especially if you want to go to grad school after, like the experience that you have, like the experience outside of grades, like extracurriculars and like research and internships, is so important for applying to grad school. So these scholarship programs are like the best bet for that. And then besides that, you also want to look at like student organizations. Like I looked into what clubs they had, like whether they had like dance or not, because that was important to me. And just kind of like based on like what clubs a school has, you can kind of tell like their vibe too. Like there's schools that have like Quidditch clubs, so like stuff like that. Like look for like quirky clubs. Like you can kind of like, if you want to know more about like the vibe of the school, like that's a good way to look into it. And also student organizations, if you look into like what opportunities they have for like student leadership and stuff, you can write about like wanting to join those student organizations in your Why This School supplemental, because almost all the schools have like a what can you contribute to our community and like why do you want to come here question. So looking at student organizations is a really good way to answer that prompt by saying that like you guys have like organizations that match my interests, and if they ask like what you can bring to the community, you can talk about like maybe an idea you have for a student organization or how you can contribute to one of the existing student organizations. And then another thing to look at for me personally, like an important factor was diversity. So that one was important to me, but besides that, like, I think a good place to really like understand the vibe of a school is like Reddit. Cause like, yeah, you can look at like US news rankings and like all of that, but Reddit keeps it like 100% real. So if you look at like student experiences on Reddit, or like most schools actually have like a confessions page on Instagram. But like, if you're like, I only started looking into all of that, like student reviews and like student confessions type stuff, like once I was down to like 3 or 4 schools. In the beginning, I kind of just focused on like what classes they offered, the majors, and like what like opportunities they had for like research and stuff, like academic stuff, and location. And then once I found out about where I got in and stuff, I started looking into like more of the student experience there. And then you can also like, the one thing I will say about like rankings, I feel like the only one that's like useful, I guess, is like what the specific ranking is for your major. Like if you just look at a list of general rankings, like they have lists of general rankings out there, like it's not the most useful. But when you look for rankings, make sure it's like something specific, like rankings in like student happiness, or like rankings in like food excellence, or like ranking in like how many of these kids like get into good med schools or something like that. Like pre-med rankings are like pretty weird. So you can like, the pre-med rankings, like they have stuff based on like how many kids get into like their top like couple like med schools and stuff like that. So like those are lists that you can look at, or like ranking based on just like the campus, like how pretty the campus is. So if you pick like kind of niche ranking lists, like then that's pretty useful. But other like the general ones, like they're not that useful because they're just based on like rep and it's not that deep. Like, so yeah. And then student to faculty ratio was another really important one for me. At first I thought I wanted like a big school, but then I realized that like even small universities are bigger than like high school. And I went to a big high school, right? So yeah, like that, in the end, it wasn't that much of like a criteria for me. In the beginning, I was like, yeah, I only want to go to a big school, but then Vanderbilt's like a pretty small school, but it's still bigger than my high school. So like, it doesn't really matter. It won't even make a difference. It's not like I can meet everyone there anyways. But yeah. So everyone says that like you need to have a couple safety, match, and reach, which is true. I've like, one of my best friends, like she applied to college like with almost like no safeties. Like she got lucky she got into Duke, but there was like no good safeties that she was actually okay with going to. So don't do that, because that can be a super stressful situation, especially if you're like applying to regular decision to all these schools. Then you're not gonna know like until January, and you don't want to take the risk of not getting into any of your top choices. So people have like different ratios for how many like safety, match, and reach you want to do. But honestly, I think it depends on like what your priorities are. Like I was applying, when I applied to schools, like in the beginning, I thought I wanted to do BSMD. And so I applied to like a bunch of BSMD programs. And like that took so much time. And at the end of the day, I realized that I wasn't that sure about being a doctor at all. So like BSMD was not the move for me. And oh wow, that rhymed. But yeah, so like the ratio kind of depends on what your priorities are. Like I always say to like make sure you have at least one school that you're actually okay going, like you wouldn't cry if that was your only option, and you're okay like paying full tuition for, just in case you have to, if you don't get like a scholarship, and that you're like okay like actually physically moving to, like you're okay with the area. It might not be your top choice, but like for me that was Baylor, because I applied like earlier, and like they have like they actually have like a scholarship calculator. Like even before you can apply, you can put in your test information and they'll tell you how much like merit-based scholarship award like you're guaranteed. So for me that was like half off, and so like Baylor was gonna be like my school that I was gonna go to. So I wouldn't say like safety, but that was like my match, like my safer match. So like for some people that might be Chapel. I just didn't want to go to Chapel. But like, yeah. And like NC State was also another one of those, like I was like, that was going to be like, I was deciding between NC State and Baylor if I hadn't gotten into like my other top choices. And then like safety schools would be like, my safety was UNCC. Like honestly, the backup plan was go to UNCC for a year and then transfer to Chapel. But yeah, like if it depends on you, just like I would say don't apply to more than 2 safeties, because chances are you won't even have to end up like at those 2 schools, and like they're safeties, like they're supposed to be your backup. You don't need a backup of a backup of a backup. So yeah, I would say like 2 safeties, maybe like one like school that you're like okay to go to, like you wouldn't cry, but it's not your top choice like 1 to 3, or like 4. And then like then you have like your actual matches that like you want to go to more, you know. So it just depends on how many schools that like you have, I guess, the stamina to apply to. Like most people apply, or the people that I know like applied kind of anywhere from like 4 to 14, and then like BSMD people, or if you're applying to like a super competitive program in all of your schools, then they apply in like the 20s. Yeah, like somewhere in the upper 20s. But yeah, most kids, like my friends who already knew where they wanted to go to, they have literally applied for 1 safety, 1 match, and like 2 reach. And that typically was like UNCC, NC State, and then Chapel and Duke. And that works too. Like I was applying DSMD, so that's why I applied to like a bunch of random schools, and I didn't really I didn't really know where I wanted to go, and I wasn't like super specific about staying in state, so that's why I applied to a lot more. But yeah, the financially safe thing is like a thing to really keep in mind when you're applying to schools, because if all of your schools are schools that you have to pay like ridiculously full tuition for, like private schools, and like especially with like Corona, like no one knows what's happening, I just think it's important to have like one financially safe school in your list at least. And then so if you don't already know this, like Ivy Leagues don't give out like merit-based scholarships unless there's like also a need, or like it's like a scholarship program. Like I know that Columbia has something, but I don't know if it's just for international students or if it's like solely merit-based, but like I know the rest don't have like merit-based scholarships. But IB pluses are like or like T20s, like whatever you want to call them, are just like near Ivies that like do give out aid because they're not Ivies. So these are like good options to apply to. Some of them give out way more aid than the others. Some of them have like signature scholarships, like UVA has like Jefferson, which is like their full ride, and like Duke and Chapel have Robertson, which is like a full tuition thing, or no, full ride thing. And then Chapel also has Moorhead Kane, which I think is like full tuition or full ride. And like Emory has university scholars, and Vanderbilt has like 3 of them. And so these are like, this list is like a good, like I had like a really good GPA in high school, but like I never put any of these as like match schools ever, because literally like all schools that like have an acceptance rate that's like kind of low are reach schools, like no matter how high your GPA is. So like I counted all of these as reach schools. So I had like a couple, I had like more than one. I had a few reach schools. I had like 6-ish, I think. So yeah, make sure your match schools are schools that you're like pretty sure you can get into. And then if you missed the link that we're using to type questions into, here's the link. Just type this in. And then like it's a spreadsheet, just type your questions in, and then at the end I'll go through it and I'll answer the questions, and you can type in the answer so that way everyone else has it. If you ask that question, go ahead and type in the answer on the spreadsheet. But yeah, I'm gonna keep going. So second part, I'm gonna zoom through like the next two parts. But yeah, the second part is just like what your Common App includes. There's actually two platforms that people use to submit applications. There's Common App. That one has a 20 school maximum, which like most people don't apply to 20 schools, so you're fine. And then there's like Coalition, which does not have a maximum, but it has fewer schools on it than Common App does. So like not all schools are on there. And then apart from those two, some schools, like almost all schools have the option to apply through their website, but that's like an excessive amount of effort because you have to like read, like you have to get your recs on there, and then you have to like retype in all of your information that you have on Common App for that specific school. So that's why unless you've like met the maximum, or you're applying to a school that like only lets you apply through the school, I would recommend like picking one of these two. And they're like the same thing. I think the only difference is like in your profile section, I think Coalition has like fewer words for activities or something like that. There's like, and like one of them has like a list of like 7 activities instead of 10. So like it's like small differences like that, but they're both like the same thing in the bigger scheme of things. So not all schools, like most schools don't ask for a resume, but some schools have room to optionally, like it's optional, but you can upload a resume. And like, especially because like you guys are missing like half, like a whole semester's worth of grades and like standardized test scores, any information you can give them, go ahead and give them. Like they are already at a loss of information. So like I would always recommend, if you have the option, to attach a resume. And if you're applying to like dual degree programs or like a special program like BSMB or DO, typically they ask for your resume too. So prep one for like colleges specifically. It's not going to look the same as like when you're applying to your job and stuff. Make sure that you include like stuff like when you started, when you ended, and some colleges will tell you, like they'll have like specific instructions on how to format it if they have the option to upload it on Common App. Like I think Penn was like 1 page, include like your name and your email up top, and then like a page number or something like that. And then other schools were like 2 pages or like a page, or like 3 pages or something like that. So make sure that you format it for each school, because like some schools will even tell you like how to format your date and stuff. So just pay attention to the instructions there. But this is basically your Common App activity section, but like I kind of put in information that maybe I didn't include on the Common App activity section, because if I have more words, I don't want to like repeat myself. But yeah, just put like your important stuff. And then I have links to like sample, like my resume samples up here if you guys want to look at that. And then I made like a spreadsheet when I was applying to schools to kind of stay organized. Like I color coded it and like kind of, it's like, it has like a checklist and like, I don't know, let me just show you guys after this presentation. I'll open it and show you guys, but this is the URL for it. So if you type this in and like, just go to file and make a copy of it, save it to your Google Drive. I put comments in there about like how to use the spreadsheet, but it basically has like a bunch of mini to-do lists, like all of like the things that you have to do, like sending scores and like getting rec letters and all of that. It kind of like lists it out. And then it has like different tabs for you guys to like do your like school research on, like find out their ranking, their location, their weather, like kind of the surrounding and all of that. So it's like a giant Mad Libs that you could do, fill in information, and then kind of know what you're doing with the whole college app process. So just type that in and then make a copy and feel free to use it. Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat after I get through the PowerPoint. And then again, here's the questions link if you missed it, because I know that we've had people joining periodically. And I can put this in the chat at the end as well. Okay, so the Common App essay. So this is kind of like the crown jewel of your application, kind of. When I say that, it puts a little bit more of importance on it than I should. But for me, it was the most stressful part. it's just the place where you have the most like words to say something about yourself. You know, like the supplementals, they're more about like, what do you think about this school, or like why do you want to do this major type stuff. So this one is like your only shot to kind of show them who you are as a person, what your priorities are, and just like tell a story about yourself. So that's why like you want to make sure that like you feel good about your Common App essay. Like that makes the whole application process like so much less stressful. I ended up rewriting mine like 2 times. Like I actually had one that I was like not happy about, and like I submitted it to like 1 or 2 schools. I mean, I ended up getting in, but like it was like I didn't feel good about that essay. But then when I rewrote it, like I felt so much better. So the role of the Common App essay, it's not the only thing that they look at, obviously, because like they still have grades, and your rec letters are super important. But it's kind of to give the reader like a context of who you are, and like understand your mindset a little bit more. And like also so that it can like, you know, readers don't like automatically spend an hour per person. They kind of skim through, and then like when they see something that piques their interest, if you check off all the other boxes, then they like go deeper to understand you and spend more time on your file. So this is your chance to kind of show them who you are beyond just your stats. And then like a lot of people like don't understand what voice means, or like when you write your Common App essay, make sure it's your voice. So like by that, I mean like a lot of people try to just write what they think the college admissions people want to hear, but then you don't, like your voice gets so muddled in that kind of essay. Or like if you like read a bunch of samples and try to imitate exactly like what you see, not like plagiarism type, but like kind of try to follow the same storyline and stuff like that, and not like you know, like write something that's like genuine and from like within, and like trying to just like mirror somebody else's work. Or like you need to be like honest and genuine in your Common App. Like I'll go through some like paragraph examples of like what I mean by that. But they can like, voice is so important in your Common App. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna get to like the examples part, and I'll explain more about what they mean. But yeah, the prompts for this year are the same. I wrote my essay first, and then I looked at, which prompt does this like essay kind of sort of fit? That was because like Common App is 650 words, and like when I was looking at the prompts, like I couldn't think of an idea that I liked enough for that specific prompt. So instead I thought about like life experiences that I could write about. Like what do I want the reader to walk away knowing about me? Like after they're done reading my file, like what do I want them to think about me? And then I thought about like life experiences that would show that, where I've like showed that trait, so I can provide evidence and stuff. And I decided that like my application would not be complete unless I wrote about my nonprofit, because I didn't really like have a chance to write about it in like, I only had like 2 sentences to put on it, like in the Common App profile. So I wanted to write my essay on that. And so I wrote it on like the time that like the first class that I taught, and kind of like how my nonprofit grew from that. And then I looked at the prompts and saw like which of these does it fit. And I ended up like just doing number 7 because I didn't want to change it. Like I really liked where the essay was. So I didn't want to like change it to like fit one of the other prompts. So I just put 7, which is share an essay on any topic of your choice. And you don't even have to specify, like you don't have to title it. So I just did that. And then these are like pretty cool prompt analysis sites where they'll talk about like each prompt, they'll look at like what the reader wants to understand about you from that prompt. So that will kind of help guide you if you need a little bit more of a nudge from just the prompt to get through writer's block. So picking a topic, a lot of people think that like, when they say significant experience, like no one has to die for it to be significant. No one has to get divorced for it to be significant. No one has to break a bone for it to be significant. Literally anything that you can spin in a way that'll like show your personality traits, the ones that you want the reader to understand and believe about you, counts. Like I literally read a really, really good essay that talked about literally like rain falling on her journal, and like the pen becoming multiple shades. She like compared the pen, like the ink, when like, you know, when the water hits the ink and like the sun hits it, it becomes like pretty. She compared like the different shades of the ink to like the different shades of her personality. And she talked about like how all those different like sides of her kind of contributed to her like decision to like follow the career path that she chose or is wanting to pursue. So even something like that, you don't have to like climb the Himalayas to have like a good Common App story. Like I know someone that wrote about the time that she went to like a study abroad program, I think in China, and like she got lice and she didn't know what to do because she was staying with like some other another family. And so she wrote about the time that her like study abroad mom had to like get like lice out of her hair when she was just trying to study abroad, and she didn't like know half the words to have those conversations. So that's like a really weird unique story thing to write about. But like imagine if you're in like the admissions committee like room and they're like, oh yeah, study abroad lice girl. Like they're not going to refer to you like that. But the thing is, it's so easy to remember that amongst like a pile of other applications that may all be talking about study abroad, but not as genuine, or like maybe keeping it on the safer side and trying to say what the colleges want to hear. Like I learned dedication, I learned hard work, I learned like how to think beyond myself, without actually like backing it up with genuine experiences that the college admissions people can kind of recall more easily. So yeah, so any like first, if you're having trouble thinking about like a significant experience, this is kind of a list of like things like that could kind of fit for that. And so like any event that changed your mind, anytime that you felt out of place, like what did you do to like change that? Did you like change yourself, or did you kind of change your mindset and like get more okay with being out of place? Or like any experience that made you like think differently of someone, whether like respect them more or respect them less after some experience with them, or just like literally anything that you can write 650 words about, 650 good words that, you know, tell the reader what you want them to hear about you, and like showcase the real you beyond the numbers that they have available, the you that maybe your recommenders haven't seen yet, or maybe they did, the you that your rec letters are like, you know, like supplementing. And then to like, or you can write about traumatic or dramatic events, but you got to handle them well. And that means like, you don't ever want to like put anything that a reader may disagree with. Like that doesn't say be on the safe side, but like, if you're going to write about risky topics, like don't say something that anyone might find offensive, or like, you don't want to shift the focus onto like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for her. Like, no, you want them to like keep following like, you know, your storyline that kind of shows like how you're getting through events. Like you still have to have a slightly positive tone to it. You don't want it to be like 100% sob story, because then you're not achieving anything like other than making them feel sorry for you. You have to like, if you're gonna write about like something tragic, you have to talk about what characteristics of yourself helped you get through that, or like what you learned from that, or like you have to talk about it from that angle, not just like telling a sad story, like analyzing the situation and what you got out of it type thing. So that's what it means by handle them well. And don't scatter the reader's focus by like talking about too many things that pull too much attention. You know, like make sure that the focus is you, and what's going on inside your brain, and how you think about things, and how you process information and situations, and how you react to situations. So yeah, so these are some of the like tips that like I thought were pretty useful, that like I got from like people like older students, and like the internet and general stuff that is good to do in your Common App. So make sure it's engaging, because like I said, they have like a giant pile of essays to get through, and you need to make sure that like you pull their attention, so they don't just skim yours and actually read your essay. An easy way to do that, like make sure your like intro to your Common App is interesting, dynamic, pulls their attention. And you like 650 words might sound like a lot, but it's not. So like, don't try to accomplish too many things in like 650 words. Make sure that the focus of your story is clear, and make sure that you are the main character, and make sure that you like, the point of this is to show them like what kind of student you're going to be at their university, and like what character traits you have that will allow you to become a successfuler professional in the future. Because colleges, like, they want to find kids that are already like gonna be successful and help them along, you know? So you have to prove that to them, that, you know, you can be that like successful professional in the future, and with their help, like, you'll get them a good name too. So like, keep your focus narrow and make sure that what you want to say, like the traits about yourself that you want to provide evidence for, are all that you're focusing on. And don't like, it's not like a storytelling thing. It's about, the focus is you. Don't focus too much on the plot, focus on how you analyze it and stuff like that. And then, yeah, other than that, make sure that you answer the prompt. Like at the end, go through your whole thing and make sure that without that, each sentence, that prompt like wouldn't be fully answered. Like if you took out that sentence, like, are you going to be missing part of your answer that's relevant to the prompt? Then if you are, then yeah, keep it. Otherwise, like, take it out. It's unnecessary. Like, you have to make your focus super clear, and every sentence has to serve a purpose. And then don't start every sentence with I. Like, I know you're allowed to use like I and me and like pronouns in the Common App, which with most academic writing is usually advised against, but this one's about you. So you can use I and me, but like, don't start every single sentence with I. Like, that shows that you don't have like a lot of experience writing. Like, you need to be able to vary your sentences, and transitions aren't just like one word. Like, a lot of people, like, the only transitions they'll use is like nonetheless, however, additionally, furthermore, and like, those don't count. You can use phrases, and you can even use sentences to help you transition from idea to idea, paragraph to paragraph. You know, show some maturity in your writing by doing that. Like, once you go through, if all of your sentences are like the same length and follow the same format, try to like switch it up. Like, just like reword it, and it'll make your essay flow better, and it won't make the reader bored when they're reading it. And it'll make you look like a more mature writer, which is always good. And then, you know, always use active voice, not passive voice. Like, that'll put your reader to sleep. And active voice will also help you like stay within the word count. So I have like 2 random examples that like I pulled off the internet. So example A is the bad one. Like, I volunteer as a big brother to a little boy who lost his parents in a car accident a few months ago. And all that is like, you're listing facts. You know, from this experience, I hope to help him cope with his loss and open up his personality by spending time with him after school on certain days. Which, yeah, you're like telling a story, but it's, first of all, it's like very passive, and it's just like listing stuff that's going on in that situation rather than like engaging the reader. So the second one, it kind of like it has less basic sentence structure. Like, not all the sentences start with I. So this one goes like, while the other children played outside, 11-year-old Danny's sad eyes focused on the white wall in front of him. He sat alone in silence, a silence that had imprisoned him since his mother and father died in a tragic accident. So that one is a lot better in terms of like being a little bit more dynamic. And so this, you know, like, we were talking about traumatic and dramatic events in the last slide. So because this is like trauma that happened to someone else, it's easier to keep the focus on kind of what you learned from the situation and what you took away from it, and how you like grew through that situation and stuff like that. So that I actually wrote one of my supplementals was kind of like this, because I used to work with like refugee elementary schoolers teaching STEM classes. So yeah, this is just a reminder to just make sure that you vary your sentence structure. It can change a lot. Like, the second one is so much better than the first one, and is like, sounds like a much more mature writer wrote it. Yeah, okay, so some common mistakes. Don't get so involved in telling a detailed story. Like, yes, you should kind of include details like what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, what you smell, all of that when you're writing the story. But make sure that you don't overdo it. Like you could go on forever describing like a beach or a lake, but you don't have to. Like only include enough to get like the reader's attention or like accomplish the purpose that you're trying to do, you know? Like if you're trying to show that, like in my Common App essay, like my intro, I talked about like bugs swarming the light bulbs and kind of like the state of the floor. But I only had like 2 phrases that talked about like the bugs in the floor, because the purpose of that was to kind of show like the financial situation that these students were in. And that's it. I could like I could spend a whole paragraph describing the room, but that's not the focus. So include details, but don't like overdo it. You gotta like find the balance. And then when I say like be genuine, what that means is like if somebody else in that story, like in your Common App essay, if you're writing about a time that you went kayaking with 4 or 5 different people, like your friends, if your Common App essay could have been written by like one of those other friends in your kayak, then that means you didn't do something right, you know? Because if you had spent time writing about how you processed the events that happened on that kayak, then not everyone processes things the same way, so they couldn't have written it. Like, so for example, what I'm saying is like, if your entire essay was like, we went down the stream and then we saw like a tree and a cabin and then we had to like turn and then we got lost and then we like went to the shore. All of that could have been written by anyone in the kayak. But if you wrote about like, okay, so, you know, it was like our kayak was picking up pace, like I was super scared and like I didn't know what to do, and then I looked at my like friend and we were like, okay, maybe we should like find a thing. So like if you write about specific experience that happened to you and how you process the information and how you thought about things and how you felt in the moment, that's like more genuine and honest. And that's what I mean by like make sure you write a story that like somebody sitting next to you couldn't write. And then also like make sure you write a story that like isn't generic enough for like everybody everywhere to spew out the same thing and have it apply to them, like generic horoscopes that you like read on Instagram. Like make it a little bit more specific than that. And then don't use like super cliche generic themes. For example, like if you, like I wrote about going to India and working with underprivileged students, but there's a cliche way to write about it, and then there's like a not cliche way to write about it. So I focused more on one specific experience, like one specific event on one day. And I had like, I spent time, like I had a couple of characters in the story as well, like other people that I worked with. But a cliche way to have done that would have been like, oh yeah, I went to India on like a mission trip to teach robotics to poor kids. And then I realized that like, oh my God, I'm so privileged. Like I felt so much more thankful for everything that I have after seeing these kids who don't have anything. That's like the most cliche way you could spin that story. So stay away from cliches. Like they don't even have to finish your, like they're not going to finish your essay. Make sure it's more authentic than that. And so this is just another example. So if you guys want the PowerPoint, I put the link for that on the question document. It's like the first link on there. But at the end, like I'll put it in the, oh yeah, I also put it in the chat, the link for this PowerPoint if you guys want to like follow along and view it after. Okay, so some examples of cliches. Okay, so 6:50. We're gonna finish in like 15 minutes, like the PowerPoint, and then we'll get to questions. So some of the cliches to avoid, like sentences maybe, are like, I know my dreams will come true, like I can make a difference. Like, yes, you can say all of these things, but say it in a way that doesn't sound like you quoted a motivational cat poster. Like, say it in a way that's more authentic than that, and maybe like weave it into like whatever story that you're telling. And also it's important to show, don't tell. So instead of saying you're committed, maybe say like, oh, I've been doing like dance for like 10 years. And like, you know, I started out somebody who couldn't even like complete a dance without being completely winded. And now I can like do like 15 or something like that. Like that's a more interesting way to say that I'm committed. You're giving them proof by showing that you can stick to something for that long. So all of these, like maybe like, if you're kind of struggling and you want, like you inevitably end up wanting to use one of these, because these are pretty common phrases and pretty common ideas that most people want to use in their essays. Think of how else you can say it and like what experiences you have that would show rather than just like throw out like an unbacked claim. And then like, don't regurgitate your resume because you have your entire like Common App profile for that, and that's gonna get so boring. That's like a missed opportunity because your Common App essay is meant to show them personality, not your resume. They already know that. Okay, so yeah, so reviewing your essays, don't ever submit your application without having someone take a look at your essays first, at least one person. Like if you can't get like a teacher or a professional or an adult or like someone with an English degree, like even your friend, because like I'm telling you, like people will have like the first couple of times that I run through my essays that I just like write, they're never like, there's always typos, bro. Like there's always grammar mistakes and spelling stuff. Like, so make sure that you write, like do like 1 or 2 drafts first and like have 1 or 2 people go through it. Don't have the whole world go through it because then people are inevitably going to have conflicting ideas and that's just going to confuse you. So I went through it with my English teacher and then like the people at like C2 or whatever. But you can also like look into online people. And I know that like with Corona, like a lot of people, even people who used to do like local essay editing now just shifted to like online Zoom interviews. So like there's people all over America who could do like pay by the hour type stuff. But yeah, that's an important thing to look into. And then here's a question document again. The link to the PowerPoint is also on the question document. Yeah. So supplemental essays. All the schools have supplemental essays, almost. I think like some of the state schools, like smaller schools didn't, but like almost all the T20s have supplementals for sure. Usually it's like 1 to 3, but some schools have like 4. And if you're applying to special programs like BSMD or DO or any pre-professional program or dual degree program, they're gonna have additional supplemental essays for that. So these are a lot shorter. Usually they're like 250, like the majority of mine were 250. Once like, I think like the only ones that had 100 were like the Ivies. The Ivies had like 100-word supplementals. And then like some of the other schools had like 300 to 400, but the majority of them were 250. And then some schools who like only had 1 supplemental, they just had like a really long one. Like Baylor had like why Baylor, and it was like 600 or like 700 words, which is the maximum. You don't have to meet it, but I did. And you know, like with supplementals, if it's shorter, like yeah, always try to meet the word count. Like it has to be less than 250. So I had some that were like 235, 242. Like it doesn't have to be like 248. But the thing is, you don't have a lot of room to say a lot of stuff about yourself. So use every word you got. Like mine always, when I edit it, it would be like 253, and I would have to really struggle to figure out where to take out those last 3 words. But how you access your supplementals, if you guys haven't figured that out yet with Common App. On Common App, you go like to your dashboard. Oh, you have to add schools. And if you go to Common App and you go to like the colleges tab, you can just search a school and add it to your dashboard. And then once you go to your dashboard, you can click on the school's name. And on the left side, you're going to see all the parts of the application. So if you like see questions, in the questions section, there'll be like a writing section, and that's where your supplementals will be. But some schools like Duke, they have like their writing supplement as like a separate thing from like the application part. So on the left side in dashboard under school name, you'll just see writing supplement, and then you'll see your supplemental questions. So some of the more common prompts are why this school. So honestly, like literally every school had this in some version of this. So like Rice had what aspects of the Rice undergraduate experience inspired you to apply? Please share why you're currently applying to Hofstra. So these can range anywhere from like 100, 150 to like, I think Baylor was the one that was like ridiculously long. That one was like 500, 600. I don't remember off the top of my head. So that's why I always recommend starting your supplements kind of early on, because you never know which school might hit you with like a 750 word supplemental. Like I was not prepared for that day. But yeah, other than that, the other most common one is like, how will you contribute to campus culture? Like, what are you going to bring to this campus? Like, what perspectives and beliefs are you going to bring here, type thing. So this is an opportunity, like you can spin it anywhere you want. For me, like when I got this question, I kind of looked through my whole application and was like, so what's super important to me that I haven't like gone in depth with yet? Because like my three things were what, like robotics, dance, and my nonprofit. So my Common App was about my nonprofit. So for my supplements, I tried to incorporate robotics whenever I could. So for this one, I think I ended up writing about kind of like the team values that I learned on robotics. Like First Robotics has like these like trademarked phrases, cooperation and like gracious professionalism. So I talked about like how I would you know, incorporate that into like my experience at, you know, whatever undergrad school it is that I was applying to. Or if you are like in a sport or something like that, you can talk about, you know, what you're going to bring, like what kind of like team values you're going to bring, or like if you're passionate about something, like something that you've done research on, you can talk about how you want to like bring your ideas and maybe like, talk about like, oh, like you want to like go into like help the graduate research people, like the graduate students do their research stuff like that. Or maybe you want to start a club, so you can look into student organizations and talk about like if you dance, maybe they don't have a dance team, like you can start something like that. But yeah, other than that, other like super common prompts are like the extracurricular one. Literally every school had this. This one was like usually 250, 150, most of them were 250. So I like, this was the first essay I wrote and I literally used it. Like I copy pasted it for every single school. So for this one, I wrote about a volunteer experience at like with Project 658, which is a local refugee support organization. And then some schools will have an achievement essay or like, but this one's rare actually. Like the achievement essay is not that common. Describe an event or achievement or something that you are like proud of, or just like you can go into detail, like you can talk about like an experience at a competition if you won an award or something, or something you're proud of. It doesn't have to be like an award, it can be something you made. Like I think mine that I did for Case Western was I wrote this like book for robotics, like this like 100-page like book that kind of covered like my entire team history and kind of like all the processes that we did, and it kind of inspired a lot of the other teams in the state to kind of make one too, like a judge's notebook. So I wrote about that. It wasn't like an award, but it was something that I was proud of. And then the community essay is also super duper common. This one is just like, how did you contribute to a community that you're a part of, or like, what do you want to bring from your community? So like schools will either have like this one, or like, how do you want to contribute to like the community here? So like I used robotics depending, like, unless a school had both of these, then I used something else for the other one. But like, yeah, this one I used robotics and I talked about like gracious professionalism and spun it a little differently. Or you can talk about like, if there was like a problem on your like Odyssey of the Mind team, how you like work to like get over it and how that's in turn strengthened your like team dynamic, like something like that. But that one's like a pretty easy one compared to the other supplemental prompts, I feel like, at least for me it was. And then like other prompts that you may get, but like that aren't that common, like maybe you'll have a school or two that'll ask for these. So like, tell us like what about your current or past experience affects you, like why you picked school. So actually, no, yeah, a lot of schools have that one, but these are more common if you're applying to like specific programs. Because I had these were prompts that I pulled from like applying to like honors college or like a specific program, and then like describe the world you come from. How has that shaped your dreams and aspirations? So these talk more about like where you want to go in the future. So that those are typically for schools that you're applying for like honors or like BSMD stuff. And then like how you spent the last 2 summers. So that one, I think the only schools that asked me that was like, I think it was like an Ivy or 2 that asked that, and then like BSMD or like special programs that I applied to. And then like intellectual curiosity was another one that one honestly was like the hardest supplement for me. Like Ivy's asked that, and then like some honors colleges asked that for their honors application. But yeah, all of these prompts, like the most common supplemental prompts. You can find prompt analyses online, just like I put the link for like the prompt analyses for the Common App prompts. So just look it up, like community essay guide, and like you'll find a bunch of examples. And so these are some like links that go more in depth about the specific supplemental prompts. And then the question document. Okay, so it's 7:01. We're gonna wrap up the presentation, but last section, so scholarships. Scholarships, like I was saying earlier, it's not just about the money, it's about the perks. Like, especially if you're going to grad school, like if I'm planning on applying to med school in the future. And so everyone that I've talked to has been saying that like, it's not just about your grades. Like obviously you have to maintain a really good GPA, and they don't really care about your major, but it's more about like the experience that you develop. So it's kind of like round two. Like, you know how these applications aren't just your grades, you have to write extracurriculars, internships, volunteer experience, rec letters. It's like round two of that. You need to have extracurriculars and internships and research experience that will, you know, kind of make you more prepared to be a better doctor in the future. So like to get those experiences, like the study abroads and all of that, like these scholarships will help you by like providing you unique opportunities that will help you stand out from the applicant pool when you're applying to med school, because maybe not all students have access to that, or like you just have an easier time finding opportunities because, you know, like I said, at NC State, like if you, they were saying that if you applied for research positions and mentioned that you're a Park Scholar, you're more likely to get it over someone who's not, because you've already been pre-vetted is the thing. And then same for like Vanderbilt, like the Ingram scholarship program has like, you know, I haven't like gone through it yet, you know, because I only know what they told us at finalist weekend and stuff like that. But, you know, they've already like set us up like with a lot of opportunities, and they've been looking into like bringing different nonprofits to come speak with us, and like partnering us with like alumni, stuff like that. So those are unique things that you might not get as a non-scholar on campus that will really like add to your resume if you plan on going to grad school. So the different types of scholarships are, there's like scholarships like the one that Baylor had, like the presidential gold one, which is solely based on your grades. Like if you enter your like test score or GPA, it'll tell you how much money you're automatically gonna get. So there's no additional application for that. And I know that Chapel Hill has like a bunch of merit-based ones that don't have additional scholarship applications. So I included the link here, but like I'm pretty sure, like I don't know if Pogue has another application, but like there's a couple. There's like the Oldwell and Founder Scholars and stuff like that at UNC. So I put the link on the PowerPoint. And then like Duke has a bunch of other merit-based scholarships that are not, that you don't have to do like an additional application for. And they also like, in addition to like scholarships like that you just get without doing an additional application for, like the big money ones, like the big tuition, like the full tuition or full ride or like half tuition things, those are typically the ones that you apply for, like Robertson, which covers Duke and Chapel, NC State, which is Park Scholarship, which is for NC State, Moorhead Kane, which is for Chapel Hill. And then these are just the ones that I applied to. Like a lot of the schools that I put on that list earlier on the PowerPoint, like the IB pluses or like the T20s, T30s, like whatever you want to call them. A lot of them do have like full tuition scholarships. So if you do some digging, you'll find it. Like Vanderbilt has 3 like big ones. 2 of them are full tuition. And then like one of them, I'm not like, it's some amount, I don't know. So the one that I have is Ingram. The other full tuition is Chancellor's. And so that one is not a program. So like they give you the money and then you're free to do whatever you want. But Ingram, it's like they work with you. There's like a whole group of staff that works with you all 4 years. And then like Emory has university scholars. Duke also has university scholars. A lot of universities have university scholars. UVA has Jefferson scholars. And so like some of these, like the big ones, like some of them you have to be nominated for by like a teacher. And then you have to go through like 1 or 2 rounds of interviews. Like Jefferson, I had to get nominated by my school. And then I had to complete like an online thing. And then I got picked for like an interview, and there was like a second round of interviewing and all of that. So those deadlines are typically like you want to start worrying about scholarship stuff, I think, in like October or November. I think like the first round of like applications for those, like nominations and stuff like that, is like early November, if I remember correctly, because I think that's when I did my park application. Yeah, and then outside of school scholarships, these are honestly, like, if you get one of these, go you, because you're not like required to go to that school if you get that money. Because like my scholarship, like I only get it if I go to Vanderbilt, and like I know that like one of the kids that got offered it, like he got like the Brian Cameron scholarship, which is like a I don't know if it's a full ride or like a certain amount of money to whatever school that you pick. So he also got into Stanford. So now he's going to Stanford and like not paying, which is like ideal. But yeah, so Coca-Cola, Coolidge, Cameron Impact Scholarship, and like the GE Reagan Foundation Scholarship are like the 4 that I know of. I didn't apply to these, but like I found out about them for you guys. So look into those. And most scholarships, I would say they're not like the ones that you have to do a like application for, and the ones that are a lot of money, those are like ones that are based on character, service, and leadership. Almost all of them are. So if you show like initiative, like for example, like some of the other scholars in my group, one of them has like a bee farming nonprofit. Like I don't exactly know the details. And then like Nicole has like this drone company that like made drones that like fly around public schools and scan people for like guns and stuff to prevent like school shootings. And like I had like my nonprofit in India, so I had like 10, 15, 20 schools that like were using my curriculum, and I like donated, like I fundraised and like donated a bunch of like robotics kits and trained the teachers there. So like when you do service, it's not just going to like the it's not like loaves and fishes helping them pack stuff. It's like planning something, you know, like planning events, starting fundraisers, and showing initiative and doing something, like creating opportunities for other people, not just like doing the job that was given to you. You have to do something different and like grow beyond that. Because almost all the scholarship people, like that was kind of their backstory. Okay, so that's the PowerPoint. Now I'm gonna go to the question document, and I'm going to start answering these. If you hear me answer your question, type the answer in, so that way you and everyone else in this webinar can have access to this. Okay, let me check the chat real quick. Is anyone having trouble finding like the links to the presentation or the question sheet? If you are, can you put it in the chat, and then I'll like send the link to you privately. Okay, so why is the virtual walkthrough so important? It depends on what your priorities are. I just, I didn't want to like, I care how the campus looks because I'm gonna live there for the next 4 years. And so I just like wanted to make sure that I didn't feel like you know, most campuses are pretty great. But there are some campuses that like, if you don't love like, you know, if you really don't care how the campus looks, then you don't have to. But I thought it was important. And also like people are saying that like colleges keep track of like who does the virtual stuff, because every time I did a virtual walkthrough, it asked for my name and like whether I was applying this year or next year. So it also does show like whether you're interested in the school, and like yield ratio really counts. And so what that means is like out of the people that they give acceptance letters to, like how many of them are actually going to come to our school. So if you show that you're interested in this school by like, you know, getting on the phone with like admissions and like asking questions, emailing them, and like wanting to find out more about the school, it'll show that you're interested, and it might just make a difference in like picking you over somebody else who might also have like a very similar application, because you're more likely to actually come if they give you your acceptance. So yeah, virtual walkthroughs is important because it shows that you are actually interested. Can you specify about the location part? So yeah, I thought location was important. Like on my spreadsheet, I always put like hours from home and car and hours from home and flight. just because like I want to visit my parents quite often, and like my parents want to visit me quite often. So like that was important to me. That's why I didn't apply to like California schools. And also like if you hate the rain, like if you hate the cold, then like don't apply to schools up north. Like cold and heat, I feel like matters a lot more than like how the campus buildings actually look. Just because some people, like I know that like when it's like some of my friends, like when it's winter, bro, it's like seasonal depression or something. Like everybody just like loses their motivation to study and just wants to curl up in a ball all day. If you can't like keep your crap together and like when it's cold, like don't apply to schools up north. And if you like get sick easily or whatever, or if you have like allergies and stuff, like you don't want to be worrying about that stuff, you know? So just like I really wanted to go to a place with like a lot of rain. So like Nashville is perfect for me because I love the rain. But it's not like you can prioritize all these different pieces of information like differently. Like if rain's not important to you, like it doesn't matter, but it's just cool to understand. And like another thing about location, like for example Northwestern, that one is like it's like in Evanston, which is like a kind of nice like small town vibe, and then it's like 10 minutes away, and it's like a 10-minute train ride away to like Chicago, which is like great because then you have the best of both worlds right there. You have a lot of stuff to do off campus, and like cities mean like internships and volunteering and like jobs, but it's also like a lot quieter and safer and like just more like chill where the college campus is specifically. What is the BSMD program and is it beneficial? So BSMD programs are early assurance programs, like because usually how it is like you do undergrad and then you apply and go to a med school, like the best one that you get into. But BSMD is what they do is like you apply right now, and if you maintain a minimum GPA and like get a minimum score on the MCAT, some of them you don't even have to take the MCAT and some of them don't have minimum GPAs. You are automatically guaranteed a spot in that med school. Actually, I'm pretty sure all of them have minimum GPAs, but some of them you don't have to take the MCAT. So it's just like a lot less stressful. And some of them are 7 years instead of 4 + 4, because usually it's like 4 undergrad and 4 med school. But if you, some BSMDs, like I think it was UMKC. That one was like 6 years. Like they have like, they can cut it down. And also you don't have to worry about not getting into med school. Like you are guaranteed your spot like right now. So it's beneficial in terms of like blood pressure. You won't have like high BP worrying about getting into colleges, med schools, but like it's also ridiculously hard to get into. Like they have like, some of them have only like 2 spots per school. Some of them have like 4 or like 6, but like it's never more than 10. Like almost all of them are like ridiculously hard to get into. The kids that get into these are like insane. So like it's worth a shot. And I would say if you're applying BSMD, apply to a lot of them, because like I applied to a lot of them, and like I know people who like applied to all of them, and like not all of them, but like a lot of them, and didn't even get into one. And so like, yeah, it's not like better or worse than like normal because you can get to any college by doing a normal undergrad thing. It's not like BSMD is the only way to get into like Stanford Med, you know, but it definitely makes it a lot like less stressful because you already know that you have your space guaranteed. Is it vital that we need a 1500 on the SAT to get into a good school? No. No. It's not vital that you need anything to get into a good school, because like a lot of people think that you need like perfect grades to get into like Vanderbilt or Duke, but I got into both, and like I did not have all A's. Like I had a few B's. And so like for the SAT as well, like especially because you got like, dude, Corona happened, like you're completely fine. Like you guys have like a get out of jail free card almost. I actually hated the SAT. Like I had like a 1450 when I took it like my sophomore year. And so I took the ACT and I ended up getting a 35. So I submitted that. But a 1500 is like really, really good anyways. And one way that you can check is you can like Google that school and they're like what 50% of their undergraduate students like got like when they were applying, and it'll tell you like the different, like 25% of these kids got like a 1400, 25, like 50% of these kids got at least like a 1500, something like that. So you can kind of judge your score based on the specific school that you're applying to using like the online like data. Do you have any tips for writing a good essay? Like other than that entire presentation, like know. Like the biggest thing is just to be genuine. Like my essays, okay, so like my Common App essay, like my Common App essay was easy to write because I had a lot to say. You know, like mine was about my nonprofit. Like I wrote about the time that I went to India and had to teach like my first class, and I talked about how like, you know, like the principal at the school that I was teaching at kind of was like, this isn't gonna work. Like, yeah, you'll teach a class for like an hour, but like no one's gonna actually learn anything, and no one's gonna like your plan to like get STEM education here isn't going to work. And then I wrote about like how things kind of took a turn for like the positive, and like how like, you know, like the media kind of blew it up a bit, and like slowly like 10, 15, 20 schools wanted the program, and how it kind of grew from there. So like, honestly, like mine was an easier topic to write about, but like I know people who wrote about like, my friend wrote about going to Catholic school in Ohio where she was like the only brown person, and like how she kind of had to decide like how to balance both her identities. But the thing is like writing about like being Indian American and stuff like that, you know, it's very easy to fall into like the cliche category because there's so many Indian Americans or like people applying that have like identity issues, like identity struggles. So like make sure that yours is genuine and you like maintain the focus. But like one thing I did, I ordered like a book of like Common App essays, and I like read an essay a day for like 2 months, like the summer before I started applying. Like I just ordered a book of essays and I just read them. So like that kind of made it easier for me to kind of understand how to write essays and like organize them. Do you think it's better to show reflection and progression in your essay rather than your awards and recognitions? Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like I was just on like a family video call and like with my extended family, and like some of the parents, like they were like, okay, so like, you know, like your cousin got this like certificate, and like how do we fit this into your application? So yes, like if you get like an award and stuff, it's very like, it's good and it's going to help your application, but the only place you can mention that is in your like award section of your Common App. Like any place that you have words to say, you should focus on telling them who you are beyond the numbers, because they already know, like they already have your awards, and obviously it's implied that if you won first place something or like you completed the course, you're a hard worker and you're smart enough to win that award. You don't have to like explain yourself. The only time, like, but that doesn't mean you can't write about awards. Like I wrote about like some of my supplementals, like I wrote about winning, like my robotics team winning the chairman's award, but instead of focusing on the award, I focused on kind of the experiences, like what we did to get that award, and more on the experiences. And I kind of mentioned like, oh yeah, our efforts paid off and we got this, but like that was not the focus, is the thing. Yeah, what other questions? But yeah, reflection and progression always. You want to talk about your, like you want to expose your internal monologue in whatever situation you're writing about. Like if you're writing about like rock climbing, you have to write about like what's going on in your mind and how you're processing the information and how you're finding like what ideas are coming to your mind and stuff like that. But I would say like, rather than just like trying to like talk all, like I can't really like explain what you have to write about, because literally Common App essays are so different. Like some people, like if you're applying for like a math major, there are like really good Common App essays that are kind of more technical than anything, but still like show personality. So I would say like read a bunch of samples and you'll kind of get an idea of like what, like, you know, how to organize it and what to include about yourself. And then you can start writing in about like whatever like you're super passionate about. Like, but if you're stuck figuring out a topic, like what's one thing that you could not like, that you have to have in your essay? For me, it was my nonprofit. But if you guys have like another passion that like you could literally write so much about, that's like helped you grow the most, or like somebody in your life that has made like a huge impact that like you have to like explain that relationship or something like that, like anything that you feel like your application would not be complete without is a good topic for Common App. Your GPAs, are they cumulative of all 4 years? Okay, so on my transcript, like when I looked at like the thing that my counselor said she sent people, like it just had my overall GPA, like my weighted and my unweighted after, I think, I think at the end of junior year. And then when they send mid-year transcript, that includes the first semester of senior year. But my school sent mid-year transcripts in like February, which was after regular decision deadlines. And like I'd already heard back from early action people by then. So yeah, second semester senior. But like most schools recalculate their GPAs, like your GPA, based on like how they want, because not all high schools do weight things the same. So like if you're applying for a BSMD program or like an engineering school, sometimes they'll just recalculate your GPA for math or for science, or just recalculate your entire GPA. So that way they can compare all their applicants in a more fair way. Cause I know that like, if you went to like middle college, like every class that you take as a high schooler at middle college counts as like college level class. So it's like a 5.0, but then it's like some schools in some places, if you get like a B in an AP class, and it's like a 4.0, but then in some places, if you get a B in an AP class, it's a 4.5. So like they will recalculate your GPA based on like their own system, and your transcripts now have numbers on there or letters, like whatever your school does. Can you throw some light on out-of-state admissions? For example, students in SC applying to Chapel, Duke, NC State. Well, for out-of-state, like Duke, honestly, like even Duke is like a private school and it's like a T20, so like most of their applicants are out-of-state anyways. Like, yeah, you guys, like, it's not like, it's gonna be a little bit harder, obviously, for like out-of-state people, especially for schools like Duke and Chapel Hill, but like it's not impossible. And like it's not like the entire school is from North Carolina, like almost all 50 states are represented. But I know that you can like find like online stats about how many kids they have from each school. Like if you just like look up like out of state and like the name of the school, and it'll tell you like the percentage breakdown. But out of state, like I know that like you guys are even in the running for like scholarships. Like NC State, the Park Scholarship, like 2/3 of them are out of state. They only reserve 1/3 for like in-state people. And so like, yeah, I don't really know about like Chapel and Duke, but like all the other schools, like Vanderbilt was out of state for me, and like I don't know, I got in. So yeah, which one is easier, SAT or ACT? So like that one, it depends on like you, I guess, because like some of my friends found SAT so much easier. Like the reason I liked ACT is because it's more closely aligned to like what you do in school, whereas SAT is a little bit more logic based. And ACT, like some people like have trouble with the timing, because timing is easier on SAT, but timing is harder on ACT. And ACT also has science. So like it's really just up to you. Like I tried both and I decided that I liked ACT, but like I have friends who tried both and they like the SAT more. It's just up to you. Your GPAs, oh yeah, we already answered that. Okay, I think that's all the questions. Does anyone need the link to the PowerPoint, or do you guys have that already? It's on here as well. I'm gonna put the link to this document on the chat one last time. But if that's all the questions, yeah, I think we're done. Yeah, if you don't have any questions, like feel free to leave, and I'll stay here for like another 2 minutes in case anyone thinks of a question. And if you have questions, put them here, and then I'll end the meeting at like 7:30.
Hey, Sonika, thank you. Thank you on behalf of TAGC and all the participants. I hope they found this information very useful. At least I found it very useful. Thanks, Sonika.
I think we got one more question.
Sure.
How important is it to be in sports varsity team? Colleges will never fault you for what you don't have. So they'll look at what you do have, and that is definitely a huge plus because that shows leadership. And try to get like a rec from your coach. That would be a really good other rec to have.
Hey, Sonika, I don't know if you saw the chat question. Is it somebody asking about your email?
Okay, I'll put my email in the chat. 1 second.
All right, Sonika, I think we'll end the session. And thank you for taking time to do this for the Telugu community. And on behalf of